Hello and welcome back to the Reapers. Today we're in the mission editor in DCS world and we're looking at creating and giving orders to ground units. So the first thing that has to be understood is that with all active units, whether they're ground units, whether they're naval, helicopter, aircraft, if they're active, i.e. not static units, if they can actually do things, then they have to be created and controlled in groups. Everything's done in groups in DCS world, so you can't just have a unit on its own, it has to be in a group. Now that particular group could have just one unit in it and that would make it a one unit group, but it's still a group, and so you have to get your head around the idea that everything is in groups and controlled in groups. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to add some units in. I'm just thinking out loud. We've got Dubai International here. Why don't we make that red, and we'll have a group of red coalition, say tanks or heavy armor on this runway here, and they're going to be defending it. And then a few miles away we'll create a group of blue tanks or heavy armor over here somewhere, and those blue tanks will move down and they'll wait here just outside of the airbase before they storm. And then we'll create another group of blue artillery, say over here a few miles away, and then while these tanks are waiting over here, the blue tanks, the blue artillery will bombard the runway to soften it up, and then once it's been bombarded, the blue tanks will storm it and have a big fight with the red tanks, and we'll see who wins. And that's the kind of thing you can do in a mission, and it's almost infinitely dynamic. You can make just about anything happen. So let's get on with it. The button we're going to be using today is this one, ground unit. So we're going to create a group, and I'm just going to plonk it in the middle, left click there for now. We have to have a name for that group, so let's call it Defenders. Oops, Defenders. So this is the country we can choose from here. Which country is in which coalition? You always have a red and a blue coalition is controlled at the beginning, or set at the beginning when you start the mission. We've got a separate video on that, how to choose which countries go in which coalition. So the USAF aggressors are going to be on red this time. About the condition, we can set the percentage condition of the unit, so I believe that means like how much life force, how much health points each unit has in percentage, and you can have a verbal condition here, although I don't think it actually really does anything, but we'll call it good condition. Next is how many units we want in this group. So this is the particular unit we've got selected of this number, so I want to go up to 10 units, and we can obviously take them away down there, so there's 10 is happy, and we can cycle through which unit we're selecting. Now it doesn't have to be all the same type of ground unit. You can have a mixture of just about any type of ground unit within a group, so we could have 5 tanks and 5 light armor or whatever we decide to have. So let's go through, whoops, ignore that, let's go through each unit. So we've got unit 1 selected, and I want to make him a T90, and unit 2 I want to make him a T80, and unit 3 I want to make him a Leopard, and I don't really know what these tanks are, but make him a Challenger. Unit 4, 5 T72, and so on until we get bored. T90 and whatever that is. So we've got a whole mixture of different armor in there in that red group, and what I'm going to do next is position them. So they're going to keep doing that, ignore that. So I'm just going to cross off there for the time being, and I'm going to grab the master unit with the left mouse click and drag. I'm going to move him there, and then the subservient, the client units, I'm going to move them into a kind of rough defensive position around this area. Okay, if we zoom in we can see the actual unit, so you can see how it's orientated and the size of it. So let's carry on down our list of functions. All of the unit types I've used so far are within armour. It doesn't have to be within armour. You can have air defence, armour, artillery, fortification, infantry, missiles, train, and unarmed. Next is the skill. Each separate unit can have a different skill. It can have average, good, high, excellent, or random. And I don't really know what difference it makes. So I guess it's the accuracy and maybe how much ammo they have or whatnot. But I'll just stick on average for now. Each unit can have heading, and you can check what heading as long as you've got this function on turned on down here. You can select the unit of interest, so I'm just going to out of there, I'm going to click on our chap there, and we can see we can turn him round there, or we can use the heading number there, so we can orientate them like that. Okay, next we can have the group hidden on map if we like. So if we check that, then they are still there, but they're no longer visible on the map, and we can put them back on. But if we untick them there and we close off here, and we want to get them back, what we can do is go to this chap here, the unit list. And here is our unit list, and we can double click on the hidden, and back they come. Next, I'm going to skip this one and go to late activation. So as it stands, as soon as we start the mission, these units, or this group that we've created, will be active and will be doing whatever I've ordered them to do. If we don't want them there to begin with, if we want them to come at some later point during the mission, we can click late activation. Then they will not appear until they have been activated, and they will be activated as part of the trigger logic system. We're going to go through that on another day, but we just accept that that's there for the time being. If we have late activation set, then we can make them visible before they've been activated. I believe that's what this is for, visible before start, so that they'll be visible before they've actually been activated. So they won't actually do anything though until they're activated. Let's turn those off. Uncontrollable. If we do not want any humans to be able to control any of these at all, we can have that. If we want the player to be able to drive one of these with combined arms, we have it ticked on. And what we're selecting here, with these options here, we're not selecting the single unit, we're selecting the group. So if we put players can drive on, that's for all of the group. We can't change it for each individual unit. And if you want it transportable by, say, a Mi-8 helicopter, then you can make this thing transportable. Next, we've got our option tabs here, and we'll go through them quickly. So we've got the route here. This is all about movement. Well, actually, it's about movement and actions, but we'll go through that in a bit. We've also got ammo here, and if we click on that out of interest, we can actually get a 3D view of the thing, and we can also choose its paint scheme. And as we cycle through our units, you can see we've got a tank, a bigger tank, a smaller tank. These are the actual units that I chose. I don't know much about tanks, but there we go. One of them, one of them, one of them. Back to route. We've also got this triggered actions. Now, this is something I don't use, and I don't really know how it works, so we're going to just breeze over that. And we've got summary. This gives a summary of what these guys are going to do. It gives a summary of their route. So I'm not going to give them a route. They're just going to sit there and basically do nothing. They're just going to defend themselves. So there's nothing to summarize here. But as we see later on, it will be a summary of their movement. What we can say is that they begin at 8 o'clock in the morning. That is when the mission begins. If we want to change that, we can go to this guy here, and we can start it at a different time. But we'll start it at 8 o'clock. So let's get back to my unit. So that was summary. Now we're going to go to route. So this would allow us to give them a series of waypoints that they would move between during the mission that would classify as their route, and we can change various options about that along the way. Now I'm not going to do it for this group. We'll just breeze over that until we get to the blue group. As well as that, we have got advanced waypoint actions. So these are relative to the waypoints that we give them. At each of those waypoints, they can do things. They can give actions. So let's go and have a look at what we've got available. So I'm going to click on actions, and I'm going to click on add, and we've got several menus. We've got a perform task menu, a start on route task menu, a perform command menu, and a set option menu. So we'll start at the top. Perform task. We can have no task, or we can have FAC, forward air controller, and I've never actually done that. That's there, fire at a point, so you can ask this group here to fire at a point on the ground, and then they would do that for the specified time and with the specified weapons. We can ask them to hold, in which case they would literally just hold and stop. We can ask them to embark to transport, I don't really know what that means, or to go to another waypoint, and that could be used to skip to the next waypoint or skip to 2 or 3 waypoints in advance. Next we've got start en route task. So the en route task we can do is just forward air controller or forward air controller engage group, so we'll go through that in another video. Perform command, we have a run script or set script or script file. These are advanced things with external scripts. I don't know how to work that. We can set the call sign of the unit. We can set the radio frequency of the unit, or the group, we can transmit a message. We've got a video on how to set frequency and transmit messages from groups in the mission editor. We can stop a radio transmission. We can again go to another waypoint. We can make them invisible. Now, invisible does not make them physically invisible. It makes them so that other groups of a hostile coalition cannot recognize these guys, cannot see them. As a human, as a player, we can still see them. And you can make them immortal. And something like invisible and immortal, they're toggleable, so you turn them on and then they stay like that until you turn them off on another waypoint. And as well as that, we've got set option. We can ROE, so we can choose whether they're weapons free, weapons return fire, or weapons hold. Whether they dispense under fire, so whether when they're shot they kind of move outwards into cover, or whether they don't and how long they do it for. Alarm state, whether they're auto, green or red state. And engage air weapons, whether you want them to engage air weapons or not. And this group's going to be super simple. All that we're going to set is at waypoint 0, which is the current one that's selected. we're going to tell them to return fire only. So set option, we're going to go to ROE and we're going to say return fire. And that's it. They're just going to sit there and return fire whenever they need to. And that's them done. You can also, each individual unit within this group can have an individual name. They're named by default anyway, so you probably won't want to rename them. But as we scroll through, you can see Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. If you want to name them something more appropriate, then you can go ahead and do that. That's all we're going to do for this group. It's going to get a little bit more complicated with the next blue group. So let's start them. If we just draw a line to get a rough distance. Let's start them, say, here, 5 miles away. I'm going to create another group here. So there, I'm going to plonk them right there. And these are going to be our blue guys. So it's going to be USA in this case. They're going to be attackers. 100%. They're going to be, yep, we're going to have, haven't decided how many yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make them armor and I'm going to make them some cool tanks or something. So why don't we make them Abrams, they're big tanks. And we're going to have, in fact, let's take them away. Before we add any more, it's a good idea to set the direction like that so that the rest of them spawn in an appropriate direction. Like that, so they spawn along the road. And let's have 10 of them. The individual unit names, I don't want to name them, can't be bothered. The skill, I'll keep as average for each unit. The heading we've got. These options here, none of that I want to change, so we're going to leave all that as it is. We do need to use the route here because we want to add waypoints and orders for these things for these guys to do. Now the first thing is we need to make them be on a road. Although they are positioned roughly on a road as it is, they're not actually programmed to stay on the road. So to program them to stay on the road, we want to go on road, and it's reshaped them now so they're on the road and they're going to follow these roads, like they're rails. If you're wondering why I keep clicking in there and having to delete it, it's because if I click in here, it'll add a waypoint. It's just an annoying thing that I do every now and then. So now we've got these guys static here, we need to add our first waypoint. We're going to add waypoint 1. So we're going to make sure we're add selected here. If not, then do select add. And we're going to put this waypoint, I guess, there. And then I'm going to add another waypoint. I've got add selected. I'm going to put this one, and this is going to be a bit confusing, there. And then I'm going to add another one. And I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to push through these houses and all the way into here. And the furthest it let me go is here because we've got them on the road. So what we're going to do for waypoint 3 is we're going to make it off-road. So it follows the road all the way up to waypoint 2. Then they're going to go off-road. They'll have a bit of the time getting around these buildings, but that should be fine. In fact, why don't we change that just a little bit? If we edit waypoint 2, we can get them to go all the way to there on the road. That's on the road. And then the waypoint 3, which is off-road, we can do that. Right, that's a little better. So it's going to shows you the route. They're going to follow it along the road. So now we can show that we can cycle through these waypoints. We've got waypoint 3, 2, 1, and 0, the starting point. They start at 8 o'clock in the morning, which is when the mission starts. The next waypoint, waypoint 1, they get to waypoint 1 there at 12 minutes past 8. They get to waypoint 2, which is there at 17 minutes past 8, and they get to waypoint 3 at 20 minutes past 8. And we can change this. We can change this in two different ways. We can change the speed. You see, we change the speed here. So let's say if I want to go back here, waypoint 1, waypoint 0, I want to actually give them 13 knots. Then if I go to this waypoint here, it's slightly different, the time that they get there, only by a few seconds though. But you get the idea. In fact, let me change this one to 13 knots, waypoint 1. Yeah, you can see it's now 8:10 instead of 8:12. So that's controlling it by the speed. You can also control it by the time. So if I wanted them to get to waypoint 1 at a certain time, like 11 for some reason, for roleplay purposes, what I could do is click on this fixed time here. I could unclick GS here and type in that case, I could type in 11 there. It would calculate the speed that they needed to travel at to get to our ETA at the precise time. So you can do it that way. I just prefer to do it this way, control the speed. As well as cycling through these waypoints, we can edit them. So if I want to edit waypoint 2, for instance, I can click waypoint 2. I've got edit selected, and you can see I can now go and drag waypoint 2 and move it about. I can delete them. I'm not going to, but I could click on delete, and that would delete waypoint 2 and shuffle them all down. So this one now became number 2. Out of interest, I can name my waypoints here if I wanted to. I don't know why I'd ever want to do that, but I could, and I've also got a template that I can make here but it's something I've never used and wouldn't be interested in, but it's there. So that's our waypoints done and checked. Now the key thing is that we want to just take note of when they get to certain places. So waypoint 1, they get to waypoint 1 at 10 past 8, and they're going to start fighting once they get to about waypoint 2, 8:15. So we want to do artillery bombardment. We'll start it at 10 past 8, so that the bombardment's for 5 minutes, and so as soon as the bombardment stops, then these guys will move in and start firing. Just to recap, we're going to get to waypoint 2. Now, as of waypoint 2, I'm going to ask my guys to open fire on these guys. So this stretch between waypoint 2 and waypoint 3, my guys are going to be firing. And so I'm going to select the relevant waypoint here, and then I'm going to use an advanced waypoint action here. Now, these waypoint actions here are relative to the main waypoint we've got selected. So if I put a advanced waypoint action in here now with number 2 selected, they will not do that action until they get to waypoint 2. So that's how we're going to do it. So we're going to go add here. We've got waypoint 2 selected. We're going to go set option, and we're going to go ROE, and we're going to go weapons free. So they're going to go to waypoint 1, then waypoint 2, then at waypoint 2 they becomes weapons free, and as they're moving along here, because they're weapons free, they will fire at any target they can see, so they will then fire at these guys. Then once we get to waypoint 3, so we're going to go to waypoint 3 at that point, and they've done fighting these guys, I'm going to ask them to fire at a building. I don't know why, it's just something else we can show. So at waypoint 3 now selected, we're going to go add, we're going to go perform task, we're going to go fire at point, and let's just choose that point, that building there, because why not? I'm not entirely sure this is going to work, but we'll give it a go. And so we're going to fire at that point. Do we want to be exactly firing at that point or a radius? Well, let's have a radius to make it a bit more realistic. So I'm going to fire somewhere in that radius. What type of weapon should they use? A cannon, a rocket, a guided missiles, a cruise missile? Well, I don't really know. I'm just going to auto, and then they'll use whatever they think is most appropriate. How many rounds do we want to fire? I've absolutely no idea, so I'm going to say I want to fire 200. No, that's a bit extreme, isn't it? 120 rounds in total from all of those guys there against that point there. Okay, so that is everything done. What we can show now is the summary here, and you can see that our guys are going to start at 8 o'clock. It's going to take them 17 minutes to get all the way to waypoint 3. They're going to cover 4 miles. They're going to average 13 knots, and that is the range from waypoint 1 to waypoint 3 as the crow flies, I believe. Okay, so next we need to create our artillery. So, create ground unit. Let's create it there. Let's make it artillery. Let's make it a paladin. Let's see what a paladin looks like. Yep, that's ideal. We can see the range of the unit that we've got selected is this yellow circle here, so it's well within range of the target. We're going to call the group arty. We're going to make some more of them. So 5 of them there. Check their heading is the right way. Yep, that looks about right. Paladins, I don't need to change their unit names. Their skill will be average. All of this stuff will leave the same. They're not going to move anywhere, so they don't need any routes. In fact, it's going to be very easy. All we need to do is to tell them to fire at that target there at a certain time. So, as of their one and only waypoint, waypoint 0, we're going to click waypoint actions there, perform task, and action fire at a point. It's going to fire at this point here. So we're going to grab this fire point and we're going to drag it to the airfield. They're going to bombard that airfield there at that point. The radius, we don't want all of the bullets on exactly that position, so we're going to increase the radius. Let's make it that big. So they're going to bombard everything within that radius and try and hit these guys there. What type of weapons will let them decide? Auto, they know better than me. How many rounds do they want to expend? To be honest, I have absolutely no idea, so why don't we say 50? 50 rounds in that radius. The only problem now is that will fire, but it'll fire as soon as we launch the map. We want them to fire conditionally, i.e. with the condition of we'll only fire at 8... blast, I forgot when these guys get here. It's 8:10, isn't it? We want them to fire at 8:10, 10 past 8. So we're going to go to the condition on this advanced waypoint. Condition, so we only want them to fire if the time is more than 8:10. So it'll get to 8:10 and then they'll fire. You could say also if a certain user flag, a logic flag is set to a certain value, that's to do with the logic trigger system we'll look at another day, or there's a probability that they will go and do this action of so many %, or if there's a condition regards scripting, that you put in there, but that's a bit beyond me. So, at 10 past 8, they are going to fire with these parameters. And that's it. That's everything set. Let's go and see what happens now. So, let's jump in. Mission has started. I'm going to turn the sounds down so we don't deafen ourselves. Right, so these are our red guys at the airbase. Mixture of tanks and various armour and stuff like that. Just staying there, waiting to be shot. Here is our guys, our blue attackers. Oops. Press the F7 button from the main map to come and view the tank. So that is our Abrams, which is travelling on the road as desired, at the speed desired. And here are our Paladins, which are there waiting for orders. So, nothing to do but wait, so we're going to speed time up with left control and Z, and it's 13 times speed now. Let's go even further. 20 times speed. Wait until we get to 10 past 8. Okay, we get dangerously close to 10 o'clock, so left shift and Z now to go back to normal time. So our Paladins should start firing. And they've not started firing. What a bummer. Now the reason is it takes, depending on what type of artillery it is, it takes several minutes for them to warm up before they'll actually fire. So we're going to give them a little bit of time before they fire, probably about 2 minutes. So we'll just sit here and speed time up. And there we go, they're firing. They're going to fire the desired 50 shells, and our guys are about to encroach. So let's go and watch these guys. See those shells landing. Flight time is going to be quite high. Where are those shells landing? Don't appear to be landing anywhere. I guess they're still in transit. We can hear the echoes from the actual... Oh, look, they're over there. Whoopsie. We've missed. I must have accidentally put them in the wrong place. Oh no, they're here now. For some reason they shot over there a little bit and now they're shooting over here. Welcome to DCS mission editing. There's one. Oh, nearly got one. The artillery was not wildly successful and we took out a few civilians, but war is hell, as they say. So let's check out our attackers now. Our attackers are getting nice and close, so it's all about to heat up. There's probably more chance that we're going to hit our own guys with our artillery by the looks of it. We'll check out one of the runways, that was pretty cool. Ooh, look at that infrastructure damage. You can have all sorts of fun blowing this city up, I tell you. Alright, we're going to speed that up a little bit now. It appears our guys have got lost. No, they're okay. They're firing at each other even though they can't see each other because they've got buildings in the way. That's just DCS being DCS. Okay. Here they go. They're doing it really weirdly, but they're going to do it. Look at that guy. He's got confused. Oh, come on, figure it out. And that guy's got stuck as well. Is anyone going to make it through? I don't think they're going to have the intelligence to do it, are they? Well, I promised you a big tank battle and it just wasn't going to have it. I'm afraid the intelligence just wasn't there to get through those buildings. So that's a bit annoying. But at least we got to see a bit of artillery. And this is why, exactly why DCS mission editing is such an art and takes so bloody long. Because things like this happen all the time. Stuff just doesn't work because it's a complicated system. You know, you've got lots of factors in here, buildings to avoid and stuff like that. And, you know, these AI units are never very clever. So what you'd have to do is then go back into the mission editor, find it why it didn't work, move some of those routes around so that they're around different buildings or something like that, replay it here, and keep going backwards and forwards and backwards forwards, and 5 hours later you might have a mission where the tanks do what you say. That's just how it is in every mission, basically. But that's it. Don't let it put you off. It's really cool. It's usually just around these buildings when it starts messing stuff up. There's obviously a lot more to it than what I've showed. There's all those other menus, options you need to go through, and different commands you can add. I'm not going to go through them all because it'll literally take all day. Other than that, I hope it was a nice introduction to ground groups and ground units, and go and create some tank battles and stuff. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.